Well, our Bible passage for today tells the story of how a blind beggar named Bartimaeus was given his sight by Jesus. Jesus, his disciples, and a crowd of people were leaving the city of Jericho. As they went along the road, they passed Bartimaeus, who was blind and sitting on the side of the road. We could assume that Bartimaeus was not a wealthy man, as he was probably begging from the people who passed by. But Bartimaeus must have heard about Jesus of Nazareth and the miracles that he had performed and the many people that he had healed. When he was told that it was Jesus who was passing by, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Apparently, he was really shouting because he was heard above the noise of all the people passing by. People in the crowd fussed at him and told him to be quiet. But Bartimaeus paid no attention to them and shouted all the more. Bartimaeus got the attention of Jesus, and he stopped and called for Bartimaeus to come to him. When Bartimaeus was called to come to Jesus, he threw his coat off to the side. He jumped up and hurried to Jesus. Then Jesus asked him a strange question. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus knew Bartimaeus was blind, and he knew what he needed desperately in his life, but he forced Bartimaeus to ask him or tell him what it was that he needed. Bartimaeus said quickly, "Rabbi, I want to see." Jesus healed his eyes and made him see. He told Bartimaeus that his faith had healed him. Bartimaeus seemed to realize who Jesus is. One Bible commentator mentioned that Jesus' favorite title for himself was the Son of Man, but Bartimaeus boldly called him the Son of David. This apparently was an explicit declaration of Jesus as the Christ, the Messiah, the long-awaited King of Israel. Bartimaeus would not be silenced by the people in the crowd. The more they told him to be quiet, the more he yelled. He was using all of his resources to get the attention of Jesus, perhaps because he was sure that Jesus could give him sight. The people wanted Bartimaeus out of the way. They didn't want Jesus to be bothered. But Jesus, as he always does, brought out the poor man, the blind man, the man people wanted out of the way, and spoke to him and healed him. Bartimaeus is an example of the humble being exalted, of the last becoming first, and of greatness being shown through service. And Bartimaeus, after he could see, followed Jesus. Jesus frequently used people who were blind to demonstrate that he came to heal blindness, both of the eyes and of the heart. Remember when Saul was converted on the road to Damascus? He saw a bright light which actually physically blinded him. He later told King Agrippa that he had heard the voice of Jesus say, "I am sending you to them to open their eyes and turn them from darkness to light, from the power of Satan to God, so that they may receive forgiveness of sins and a place among those who are sanctified by me." Perhaps Paul's physical blindness was a symbol of his past spiritual blindness. When his physical sight was restored, he saw the light of Jesus Christ, and he began witnessing for Jesus for the remainder of his life. As I explored the meaning of this scripture passage and looked up commentaries, every one that I checked associated this story with spiritual blindness. This is a quote from the internet. "Spiritual blindness is a serious condition where a person is unable to understand and believe in Jesus Christ's teachings, sacrifice, and deity." End quote. People who are spiritually blind are usually blind to their own blindness. They don't realize that something important is missing from their lives. When they hear the truth of the gospel, they may be unable to understand its meaning and see how it applies to their life. Some people have trouble believing what they cannot see. Some can be deceived by sin and cannot accept the teachings of Jesus and his authority in their lives. So, what is it like to be physically blind? I looked this up on the internet, and this is what one writer said about being blind. This is a quote. "If you are born blind, it does not feel like anything. People do not see black, they see nothing. To them, it is completely normal, as they do not know any other way of life." End quote. So this makes me wonder if unless someone explained to a blind person what it is to see and told them that everyone else could see and he could not, he might never realize that something was missing from his life. This would be true only for someone who had never had sight. A person would be blind to their own, their own blindness, because they would not know what they were missing. We have a member of our church who's blind. Susan Knight has been blind almost all of her life, but she's a very independent lady. She worked at a job, owned her own home, shopped for her groceries at the store. She had to rely on people for some things, but she took care of most things in her life on her own. However, I have seen some of the problems of being blind. Susan can get disoriented and not know which way she needs to go. You remember the game we used to play as children, where we would have somebody close their eyes and turn them around and then tell them to go somewhere? They had no idea in which direction to go. That is a problem with those who cannot see, because if they get turned around, they can go off in the wrong direction. If our spiritual vision is impaired, we can get disoriented and not know which way we need to go. If we are not talking and listening to God, we can head off in the wrong direction and go after the wrong things and get ourselves all off the course that we need to be on. I have seen people take advantage of Susan because they knew that she couldn't see. She needed a limb cut from her tree, and she paid someone the amount she would have paid to have the whole tree cut down, because she had no idea how much work the man had done. She had her walls painted, and somehow the painter got white paint all over the legs of her living room end table. Someone said they would go cut her grass, and they cut only the front and let the back grow into a jungle. If we are spiritually blind, Satan can have a great time messing up our lives. We can follow the wrong people to the wrong places. We can become infatuated by the wrong things and get mixed up in all kinds of misadventures that dishonor ourselves and God. We can become the prey for unholy people to take advantage of us and lead us astray. When you cannot see, it's hard to know what and where everything is. We check our supply of Coke and cake mix before we go to the store, and we decide if we need to buy more. If you can't see, you have to remember what you already have, or you will buy more and more. You know how we all come in the door of the house and put whatever we are carrying down somewhere? We come back and see it and put it away. If you can't see, you probably will not remember what is there, and things may sit for a long time before you stumble over them again. We may have things in our houses that we don't see because they are in an out-of-the-way place, things that we should be using or things that we should be doing. Recently, I had to write a thank you note. That's the kind of thing I can put off forever. Almost every day I would say to myself, I'm going to write that note tonight. And that night I said, I am going to write that note tomorrow for sure. Several weeks passed. I finally did write that note. The way I got that job done was I pulled out a thank you card and set it on the counter where I could see it every day. I got tired of looking at it, and I finally wrote the card. What is out of sight and out of mind at your house that should be where you can see it? Is your Bible out on the table or hiding neatly in the bookshelf? If it's hidden, it can be easy for us to pass it by and not read it. Our devotion books and our Bible need to be in a place where we can easily see them and get to them so that we will remember to use them every day. I was driving one morning a few weeks ago, and there was a very heavy fog for a few miles. I couldn't see anything except a few feet in front of my car. I thought as I went along, this is kind of like it must like it must be being blind. I couldn't see where the road went or where I was supposed to be going. I know that there are many deer along that part of the road, and I couldn't see if there was one on the side of the road that would be a danger to me. I prayed that there would not be a walker or a runner out at that time of day, because I would not be able to see them until the last minute. This fog made me think of spiritual blindness, because I couldn't see where I was supposed to go, and I couldn't see the dangers that could be lurking along my way. I was thankful when I came out of that fog and could see the world around me, and I had confidence and assurance of the way that I was supposed to go. Well, I don't think most of us are spiritually blind, but I do believe we all have some degree of diminished spiritual eyesight. Do we recognize the areas where we are spiritually blind and weak? Are we Christ-centered? Do we have trouble talking with God? And are we aware of what He is doing in our lives? Can we feel God's presence all around us? Perhaps we can gain some insight from Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus believed that if he could get Jesus' attention, Jesus could and would heal his blindness. Bartimaeus had faith. He was forceful as he cried out for Jesus to have mercy on him. He would not shut up. Even when he was told to be quiet, he yelled all the more. This reminds me of the story of Jacob, who was wrestling with the angel. The angel told Jacob to let him go, but Jacob said, "No, not until you bless me." Bartimaeus was not intending to let go either until he spoke to Jesus. Do we believe that Jesus can give us what we need? Are we persistent in seeking Him and asking for His blessing? When Jesus called Bartimaeus, he jumped up and threw off his cloak. Bible commentators say that this is symbolic of him throwing off his old life. He hurried to Jesus. He appears to be excited, hopeful, and expectant. It seemed that his faith is busting out all over him. Can we throw off the old ways of living that have hindered us? Can we throw aside such things as worry, selfishness, and feelings of inadequacy? If we really believe that Jesus can fill our needs, our faith should be hopeful, excited, expectant, and evident in all that we say and do. Our faith should be bursting out of us at all times. Jesus can heal our spiritual blindness. Just as He healed Bartimaeus and others, He can make our eyes to see. Jesus said in Matthew 7, "Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened to you." We need to ask Jesus to open the eyes of our heart, and we need to seek the knowledge and understanding that is needed for us to be useful Christians in God's great kingdom. Well, Jesus is not passing by us as He was passing by Bartimaeus. He's hovering around us all the time. We should cry out and ask Jesus to have mercy on us, and we will hear Him say, "What do you want me to do for you?" And we can proclaim with enthusiasm and expectancy, "I want to see. Jesus Christ, I want to see your majesty and your glory and your grace. I want to see the path that you have laid out for me to follow. I want to see how you plan to use me in your kingdom. I want to see who you have placed in my mission field. I want the eyes of my heart to be opened so that I can see you, my Lord and my God."